Some people become family, not because they were meant to, but because they stayed. Evelyn Moore never gave birth to a child. There were no baby photos on her walls, no school drawings taped to the fridge. No one ever called her mom. And yet, for 18 years she raised a boy who wasn't hers. Not by law, not by blood, not by obligation. She fed him when no one came looking, waited for him when no one else worried, defended him when it would have been easier to step back. The town thought they understood their story. They were wrong. Because one day, long after the boy had grown, long after he had left her quiet house behind, the truth finally came out. Evelyn Moore never had to stay. She chose to, and that choice would change the meaning of family, for both of them, forever. Evelyn Moore lived in a house that always sounded too quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet people talk about when they're trying to sell you something, but the kind that settles in after years of unanswered questions. The kind that makes you aware of every ticking clock, every creak in the floorboards, every breath you take alone. Her house sat at the edge of town, just far enough that people didn't pass by unless they had a reason to. A narrow porch, peeling white paint, one porch light that flickered when the wind picked up. It wasn't lonely because it was empty. It was lonely because it had been waiting. Evelyn was the kind of woman people trusted without really knowing why. She worked mornings at the local elementary school cafeteria, tying her hair back before sunrise, packing lunches for children whose names she rarely remembered, but whose faces she never forgot. She knew which kids ate too fast, which ones saved half their food for later, which ones asked for seconds because they were hungry, and which ones asked because they wanted to feel noticed. No one ever asked her about her life. They assumed things, that she was widowed, that she had children who'd grown and moved away, that her story had already been told. Evelyn never corrected them. After work, she walked home the same way every day, past the closed hardware store and the empty bus stop, her shoes scuffing lightly against the pavement. She waved at the same neighbors, bought the same groceries, cooked the same simple meals. And every evening, just before the sun dipped behind the rooftops, she sat on her porch with a cup of tea and listened to the town settle down. That was when she first noticed the boy. He didn't knock, didn't call out, didn't ask for anything. He just sat. At first, she thought he was waiting for someone. Kids waited all the time. Parents running late, rides that never showed up, promises that stretched thin. But the next evening, he was there again. Sitting on the bottom step of her porch, knees pulled up to his chest, eyes fixed on the street like he was watching for something he already knew wouldn't come. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old, too thin for the cold, shoes a size too big, a jacket that had once belonged to someone else. Evelyn didn't speak to him that night. She watched from behind the screen door as the sky darkened and the streetlights flickered on. Eventually, the boy stood up, brushed the dust from his jeans, and walked away without looking back. She told herself it wasn't her business. But the next night he came back. Same step, same posture, same silence. By the third evening, Evelyn found herself setting an extra plate on the table without thinking. She caught herself standing at the door longer than usual, hand resting on the handle, listening to the quiet outside. On the fourth night, the wind picked up early. The temperature dropped fast. The boy didn't move. That was when Evelyn opened the door. "Hey," she said softly, not loud enough to scare him, not gentle enough to sound unsure. "It's getting cold out here." The boy looked up, startled, like he'd forgotten she existed. His eyes were guarded in a way no child should be. "I'm not doing anything," he said quickly. "I know," Evelyn replied. "I just thought you might want something warm." She didn't say come inside. She didn't say what's your name. She didn't say where are your parents. She held out a mug of hot chocolate with both hands and waited. After a long moment, the boy took it. "Thank you," he muttered. They sat there in silence, steam curling into the air between them. When he finished, he placed the mug carefully on the step, like he was afraid of breaking something. "My name's Evelyn," she said. Another pause. "Lucas," he answered. She nodded. "Nice to meet you, Lucas." That was all. He left a few minutes later, but something had shifted. Not in the town, not in the house, in her. From then on, Lucas came every evening. Sometimes he talked, sometimes he didn't. Sometimes he ate whatever she handed him like he hadn't eaten all day. Other nights he picked at his food, eyes darting toward the street, waiting for a car that never slowed down. Evelyn never asked questions she didn't want the answers to. She learned things slowly instead. That his mother worked nights. That sometimes she didn't come home at all. That Lucas had learned how to be quiet because quiet didn't cause trouble. Evelyn didn't announce what she was doing. She didn't call anyone. She didn't make promises she couldn't keep. She just kept the porch light on. When teachers started calling her number instead of the one on file, she answered without hesitation. When Lucas needed clean clothes, they appeared folded on the chair by the door. When he fell asleep on her couch one night and didn't wake up until morning, she covered him with a blanket and packed his school bag like it was the most natural thing in the world. And when someone once asked her casually, "Is that your son?" Evelyn looked at Lucas, standing behind her unsure, waiting to see what she would say. She smiled gently and replied, "He's with me." She didn't know it then, but that was the moment everything changed. Part 2. The boy the town thought was hers. By winter, no one remembered when Lucas had started coming to Evelyn's house. Felt like he had always been there. He walked beside her to the bus stop in the mornings now, hands stuffed into his pockets, backpack hanging low on his shoulders. He never reached for her hand, but he always stayed close enough that their arms brushed when the sidewalk narrowed. People noticed. They noticed the way he waited for her after school, the way she carried an extra jacket, the way she bent down to listen when he spoke like his words mattered. At the grocery store, Lucas pushed the cart while Evelyn compared prices. At church on Sundays he sat beside her, feet swinging, whispering questions she answered with a quiet smile. No one asked when it happened. They just decided. "Your boy's growing fast," the cashier said one afternoon. Evelyn nodded. "He is." The woman smiled, pleased with herself for noticing. Lucas glanced up at Evelyn, eyes searching her face, waiting for the correction that never came. Instead, she placed a loaf of bread on the counter and thanked the cashier for the discount. On the walk home, Lucas finally asked, "Why do people think you're my mom?" Evelyn didn't stop walking. "Does it bother you?" she asked. He thought about it. "No." "Then it doesn't bother me," she said. That was how it went with Evelyn. No explanations. No speeches. Just answers that made room. As the months passed, Lucas changed. His teachers noticed first. He stopped flinching when adults raised their voices. He started turning in homework on time. He stopped hoarding food in his backpack. He laughed more short, surprised bursts of sound, like he wasn't used to hearing himself do it. Evelyn noticed too, though she pretended not to. Evelyn learned quickly that love, once noticed, never stays private for long. The meetings began in a beige building that smelled like old carpet and burnt coffee. She sat in plastic chairs beside people who spoke in clipped sentences and wrote notes without looking at her. They asked questions that sounded polite but landed heavy. How long had Lucas been staying with her? Did she receive financial support? Was she prepared to take responsibility? Evelyn answered everything honestly. No, when the truth was no. Yes, when it was yes. I don't know, when it was the only answer that didn't lie. When they asked if she was willing to become his guardian, she didn't answer right away. Not because she didn't want to, but because she understood what the word willing actually meant. It meant background checks and home inspections. It meant court dates during work hours and documents she didn't understand. It meant choosing one life over another. And Evelyn had never been good at choosing herself. The first sacrifice came quietly. She cut her work hours to attend meetings, and with fewer hours came smaller paychecks. She stopped buying the good tea and switched to the cheap brand that tasted like warm water. She turned the heat down at night and wore sweaters inside. Lucas noticed. "You're cold," he said one evening, handing her his hoodie. Evelyn smiled. "I'm fine." He didn't argue. He just pulled his chair closer to the heater and waited until she sat down too. The second sacrifice hurt more. When Child Services suggested Lucas might be placed with a temporary foster family while things were sorted out, Evelyn felt something tighten in her chest. "He's already settled," she said. "Moving him again would." "Rules are rules," the caseworker replied gently. "This is a process." That night, Evelyn sat at her kitchen table long after Lucas had gone to bed. She stared at the calendar, counting days she couldn't afford to lose. The next morning, she walked into the school office and resigned. Just like that. The principal blinked at her in surprise. "Are you sure? You've been here a long time." "I know," Evelyn said. "But I need to be available." She left with a cardboard box and no backup plan. Word spread fast. People who had once smiled at her now spoke in hushed tones. "Did you hear she quit her job? Seems reckless. I wonder what her angle is." Evelyn heard it all. She didn't respond. She sold her car next. Walked everywhere after that. Took in sewing on the side. Cleaned houses when she could. She learned which bills could wait and which ones couldn't. Lucas watched her closely, guilt creeping into his eyes like a shadow. "This is my fault," he said one night. Evelyn looked up from folding laundry. "No. If I wasn't here." She crossed the room in 2 steps and knelt in front of him. "Listen to me," she said, firm but calm. "Adults make choices. Children don't carry them." He swallowed hard. "But you're losing things." Evelyn nodded. "That's what choosing looks like sometimes." The hardest sacrifice came when the town turned on her. A neighbor reported her for improper guardianship. Someone else questioned her motives outright. "Why would a woman like you want someone else's kid?" they asked. Evelyn stood still, hands clasped, eyes steady. "I don't want him," she replied. They frowned, confused. "I care about him," she finished. "There's a difference." When the court date finally came, Evelyn sat alone in the gallery. No family, no friends, just Lucas's teacher sitting quietly 2 rows back. The judge reviewed the case slowly. "You understand," he said, "that if guardianship is granted, this responsibility is long-term." "Yes," Evelyn said. "You understand there is no financial reward." "Yes." "You understand that you will receive no recognition." Evelyn met his eyes. "I'm not doing this for recognition." Lucas wasn't allowed in the courtroom. He waited in the hallway, counting tiles, heart pounding. When the door opened and Evelyn stepped out, he searched her face. She knelt beside him. "You're safe," she said. That night, the house felt warmer than it had in months. Evelyn made soup from scraps and they ate it slowly, sitting side by side. No celebration. No relief that needed words. Just the quiet understanding that staying had cost her everything she could afford to lose. And she had paid it willingly. Lucas didn't change suddenly. He thinned out of childhood the way fog lifts from a road. Slowly enough that you don't notice until the view is different. At 13, he started closing his door. At 14, he stopped telling Evelyn everything. Not out of secrecy, out of discovery. He was finding thoughts that belonged only to him, questions he didn't yet have words for. Evelyn noticed. She always noticed. But she never followed him into that space. She learned to knock. Learned to wait for answers that sometimes never came. When teachers praised his independence, Evelyn smiled. When neighbors commented on how grown he was becoming, she nodded politely. At night, she folded laundry and found socks she didn't remember buying. Shirts that no longer fit her memory of him. Time was doing its work. By 16, Lucas walked ahead of her instead of beside her. He talked about things that didn't include her. Friends she hadn't met, ideas she didn't recognize, futures she wouldn't be part of. "I might leave the state for college," he said one evening, casual, like he was commenting on the weather. Evelyn didn't drop the dish in her hands. Didn't freeze. Didn't ask the question that rose instinctively in her throat. Instead, she said, "That would be good for you." Lucas looked up, surprised. "You don't mind?" Evelyn dried her hands carefully. "Why would I?" He studied her face, searching for a crack. For the plea he expected but didn't find. "You could ask me to stay," he said quietly. The room felt smaller then. Evelyn sat down across from him. She folded her hands the way she always did when something mattered. "I could," she agreed. He waited. "But I won't." His brows furrowed. "Why not?" She didn't answer immediately. Because the truth wasn't simple. Because asking him to stay would feel like love but sound like fear. "Because if you stay for me," she said gently, "you'll always wonder who you could have been if you'd left." He looked away, jaw tight. "You think I'd resent you?" "No," Evelyn said softly. I think you'd resent yourself." That was the moment Lucas began to pull back for real. Not out of anger. Out of grief. The months before he left were filled with half conversations and unfinished sentences. He was careful with her like she was something fragile. She was careful with him like he was already gone. Evelyn packed his things without comment. She wrote lists he didn't ask for. She handed him money he tried to refuse. The night before he left, Lucas stood in the doorway of her room. "You could still tell me to stay," he said. Evelyn looked up from the lamp she was turning off. "If I did," she asked, "would you?" He hesitated. That was answer enough. The next morning, she watched the bus pull away without waving. She didn't cry. She went home, sat at the kitchen table, and let the silence sit beside her like a consequence she had chosen. Letting go wasn't heroic. It was quiet, lonely, final, and it was the hardest act of love she had ever known. The knock came on an ordinary afternoon. Not sharp, not urgent, just firm enough to be intentional. Evelyn was at the kitchen sink, rinsing a cup she didn't need, listening to the radio murmur about weather she no longer planned around. She hadn't had visitors in years. The porch light still worked, but it came on by habit now, not expectation. She wiped her hands on a towel and went to the door. For a moment, she didn't recognize him. He was taller, broader. His face held angles that hadn't been there before, lines shaped by responsibility instead of fear. His hair was shorter, his posture steady, his eyes unmistakably familiar. "Hi," he said. Evelyn's breath caught, not in surprise but in recognition. "Lucas," she whispered. He smiled, uncertain. "You knew." "I always would," she said. They stood there longer than necessary, two people unsure how to cross a distance that had taken years to form. Finally, Evelyn stepped aside. "Come in," she said. Inside, nothing had changed. The same couch, the same table, the same quiet. Lucas looked around slowly, like someone revisiting a memory instead of a place. "You kept it all," he said. Evelyn shrugged lightly. "I didn't see a reason not to." He sat where he always had, hands folded loosely in his lap. No nervous fidgeting now, no guarded glances. He was calm in a way that unsettled her. "You're staying long?" she asked. "I don't know," he replied. "That depends." She waited. "I came back because I needed to tell you something," he said. Evelyn nodded, heart steady but alert. "All right." Lucas took a breath. Not because he was afraid, but because what he carried had weight. "I found my mother," he said. Evelyn didn't react. She let the words exist. "She's in Arizona," he continued. "Sober. Working. Trying." A pause. "She wanted to meet." Evelyn held his gaze. "And I did," he said. "Twice." His voice was even, but his hands tightened together. "She asked me why I left," he said. "Why I didn't come back." Evelyn said nothing. "I told her the truth," Lucas went on. "That someone else stayed." The silence between them deepened. "She asked who raised me," he said. Evelyn felt something shift. Not fear, not hope, something quieter. "What did you say?" she asked. "I said," Lucas replied, "that I was raised by a woman who never asked me to owe her anything." Evelyn looked down. "I came back because there's something else," he added. She looked up again. "I've been accepted into a fellowship," he said. "Social work. Child advocacy." Her lips parted slightly. "I work with kids like I was," he continued. "Kids who don't belong anywhere yet." Evelyn's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. "And I needed you to know," Lucas finished, "that I didn't become this despite you letting me go." He stood then, crossing the room slowly. "I became this because you did." Evelyn reached out, not to hold him, but to steady herself. "You didn't save me," Lucas said softly. "You showed me how to stand." Outside, the porch light flickered on as dusk settled in. For the first time in years, Evelyn didn't feel like she was waiting. Evelyn had built her life around one quiet rule. Do not ask. Not for help. Not for recognition. Not for anything that might turn love into obligation. So when Lucas stayed the night, and then the next, she told herself it was temporary. A visit. A pause between places. He cooked breakfast the first morning without asking. She woke to the sound of movement in the kitchen, the smell of coffee stronger than she remembered it being. When she appeared in the doorway, Lucas looked up surprised, then smiled. "You still take it the same way," he said, handing her a mug. Evelyn hesitated before taking it. "Thank you," she said carefully. He nodded, as if that was enough. Over the next few days he fixed things she hadn't mentioned were broken. The loose step on the porch. The light that flickered every evening. He carried groceries without comment. Replaced the heater filter. Adjusted the thermostat when she wasn't looking. Evelyn watched it all with quiet discomfort. "You don't have to do that," she said one afternoon. "I know," Lucas replied. "I want to." The word want unsettled her. One evening he sat across from her at the kitchen table, paperwork spread between them. "I'd like to help," he said. Evelyn stiffened slightly. "I manage." "I know," he said. "You always have." He slid a form toward her. "A housing assistance grant," he explained. "For seniors. It's not charity. It's support." She pushed the paper back. "I didn't raise you to rescue me," she said. Lucas met her eyes. "You didn't raise me to watch you struggle either." The room fell quiet. "You taught me that love doesn't keep score," he continued. "That it doesn't demand repayment." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "This isn't repayment," he said gently. "It's continuity." She turned away, staring out the window. For years, she had believed that accepting help would undo everything, that it would make her small, dependent, less herself. But the truth pressed in slowly, insistently. She had let him leave so he could become whole. Could she let him stay long enough to give? That night she slept poorly. Dreams of empty porches and doors that wouldn't open. In the morning, she found the papers still on the table, neatly stacked. She picked them up. "I don't want this to change things," she said later, handing them back to him. Lucas smiled softly. "It won't," he said. "It'll just mean we stop pretending we don't need each other." Evelyn signed her name. Not because she was weak, but because she was strong enough to trust that love could move in both directions. Evelyn never learned how to be seen. She learned how to be present, how to stay quiet, how to do what needed doing without expecting a witness. So when the letter arrived addressed to Ms. Evelyn Moore, stamped with the seal of a city office, she assumed it was a mistake. Lucas opened it first, not out of habit, but because she hadn't noticed it trembling in her hands. "They want to honor you," he said carefully. Evelyn frowned. "For what?" "For everything," he replied. The ceremony was held in a modest hall downtown. Folding chairs. A small stage. A banner that read Community Impact Award in letters too large for her liking. Evelyn sat in the back row, hoping no one would notice her. They did. People she barely remembered stood up when she entered. Teachers. Neighbors. A former caseworker. Even the cashier from the grocery store who had once asked about her boy. Evelyn kept her eyes down. When her name was called, the room applauded. Not politely. Fully. She felt the weight of it then, not pride, but the accumulation of years she had lived without pause. Years she had given without asking. Years she had disappeared into work, into care, into someone else's becoming. She walked to the stage slowly. The speaker talked about stability, about choice, about how one woman's quiet decisions had altered the trajectory of a life. Evelyn heard her name spoken aloud again and again. It sounded unfamiliar. When they handed her the plaque, she held it like something borrowed. They asked her to say a few words. Evelyn stepped to the microphone. She didn't smile. "I don't know how to accept this," she said honestly, "because I never did what I did to be recognized." The room stilled. "I didn't raise a child," she continued. "I stayed when staying mattered." A murmur moved through the crowd. "I didn't save anyone," she said. "I made space." She looked out and found Lucas standing near the aisle, eyes steady, unashamed. "I think we talk too much about heroes," Evelyn said softly, "and not enough about responsibility." When she finished, there was no applause at first. Then one person stood. Then another. And another. Later in the hallway, people lined up to thank her, to tell her stories she had never heard. Of rides she'd given, meals she'd shared, moments she'd forgotten. Evelyn listened. For the first time, she understood the full shape of her life. Not small, not invisible, just unclaimed. That night, she placed the plaque in a drawer. But something had shifted. The town had finally spoken her name, and she had finally heard it. Time did not announce itself. It arrived the way it always had, quietly, without apology. Evelyn began forgetting small things first. Where she placed her glasses. Whether she'd already watered the plants. She laughed it off, brushing it aside the way she always had. But Lucas noticed. He noticed the calendar with the same day circled twice. The soup left simmering too long. The way she paused sometimes mid-sentence, searching for a word that had always come easily before. "It's nothing," Evelyn said. Lucas didn't argue. He simply stayed. Appointments followed. Then tests. Then a room with a doctor who spoke gently but clearly. "It's early," the doctor said. "But it will progress." Evelyn nodded, absorbing the words like weather. Lucas clenched his jaw. Later, sitting in the car, Evelyn spoke first. "I don't want to be remembered like this," she said. Lucas looked at her. "Like what?" "As someone who needed help," she replied. He took a breath. "You were always more than what you needed," he said. "You were what you gave." Evelyn didn't answer. That night, she opened a drawer she hadn't touched in years. Inside were old documents, deeds, letters, the plaque from the ceremony. She spread them out slowly. In the morning, she handed Lucas a folder. "There are decisions I need you to make," she said. He shook his head. "You're still here." "I know," she replied. "That's why I'm asking now." They talked for hours. About the house. About memories. About the things she never wanted but now had to name. "Promise me something," she said finally. "Anything," he replied. "Don't turn me into a lesson," she said. "Turn me into a path." Lucas swallowed. Weeks later, the porch light stayed on longer each evening. Kids began stopping by the house again. Not just Lucas's old friends but new ones. Teens from his programs. Children who needed quiet more than answers. Evelyn watched from her chair as voices filled the space. She smiled. One afternoon, she took Lucas's hand. "I didn't leave much behind," she said. He squeezed her hand gently. "You left a way forward," he replied. Evelyn closed her eyes. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of what would remain. Evelyn did not disappear all at once. She softened. Her voice grew quieter. Her steps slower. Some mornings she watched the sun rise like it was new to her, even though she'd seen it from the same window for decades. Lucas learned how to repeat things gently, how to answer questions she had already asked, how to sit beside her without filling the silence. The house adjusted. It learned to listen more than speak. On good days, Evelyn remembered everything. She told stories Lucas had never heard, about her childhood, about mistakes she never regretted, about love that never asked permission. On harder days, she asked him who he was. Lucas answered every time. "I'm Lucas," he said. "I'm here." And that was enough. When she could no longer cook, the kitchen filled with new hands. Volunteers. Former students. Kids who had once sat quietly on her porch, now taller, louder, alive. The house breathed again. Evelyn watched it all with distant peace. One evening, as dusk stretched long across the floor, she touched Lucas's arm. "You did it," she said. "Did what?" he asked. "You kept the door open." Lucas smiled, but his eyes burned. Weeks later, Evelyn slept more than she woke. Lucas sat beside her bed, reading aloud from books she no longer followed but still enjoyed the sound of. One night, her breathing slowed. Lucas didn't panic. He held her hand. When morning came, the house was quiet again, but not empty. At the memorial, there were no speeches prepared. People spoke anyway. They talked about meals, rides, silence that had saved them, about a woman who never asked for credit but somehow shaped their lives. Lucas stood last. "She didn't belong to the world," he said softly, "but she gave it somewhere to rest." Afterward, the house filled with footsteps one more time. Then life continued. Months passed. The porch light still came on at dusk. Kids still stopped by. Lucas kept his promise. He didn't turn her into a lesson. He turned her into a place. The house did not change owners. Changed purpose. Lucas kept it exactly as it was at first. The couch where Evelyn used to sit. The table where she folded laundry with care. The porch steps where a boy once waited without knowing why. But slowly the house learned new rhythms. Shoes by the door that weren't Lucas's. Laughter that arrived unexpectedly. Voices asking questions that didn't always need answers. The porch light stayed on. Not out of sentiment. Out of recognition. Lucas never put up a sign. Never advertised. Never explained. People just knew. If you needed quiet, you came. If you needed safety, you stayed. If you needed time, the house gave it. On the wall near the entrance, Lucas framed only one thing. A handwritten note in Evelyn's careful script. Leave the door open. Years passed. Children grew. Some left. Some came back. Some stayed just long enough to believe in something again. Lucas aged too. Not into someone important. Just into someone present. When people asked him why he did it, he always gave the same answer. Because someone once did it for me. On quiet evenings, Lucas sat on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching the street settle into itself. Sometimes he imagined Evelyn beside him. Not speaking, not watching him, just there. And sometimes a child would appear at the edge of the steps. Not knocking. Not asking. Just waiting. Lucas would open the door. Because some legacies aren't built. They're kept. The porch light flickered once, then held steady. And the house listened.